What happens when a woman starts to feel that she can anticipate your words and actions, when she knows exactly how to pull you in or push you away? Once she reaches that point, the mystery disappears. There's no tension around you anymore, just certainty, and certainty kills desire. Machiavelli would tell you, when someone believes they've mastered your patterns, they stop respecting your power. Most men, when they feel this shift, respond the wrong way. They overcompensate. They talk more, try harder to please, hoping to win back the spark. But that only confirms her control. The Machiavellian man does something else entirely. He breaks the pattern she thinks she owns, subtly, surgically. And in doing so, he resets the entire dynamic. She can no longer predict him. She can no longer pull him in on command, and that uncertainty restores what comfort had quietly destroyed her craving. In this video, I'll give you 6 precise moves to perform this break with absolute control. Not to punish her, not to make her jealous, but to shift the ground beneath her until she feels her grip on you loosen and her desire tighten. Let's begin. Here's the first move, and it's what makes her lose balance without you ever raising your voice. The break isn't a slam door. It isn't the cold shoulder. It's a subtle shift in gravity, a change she feels in her body before she ever understands it in her mind. She sends a playful text. You answer with warmth, but not availability. She leans in during a conversation and you meet her gaze, but let the silence stretch just a second too long. At first, it's invisible. Then it's undeniable. She starts realizing she's leaning toward you more often. Her laughter feels more like a reach than a release. And when your hand brushes hers, she feels a faint, aching gap that wasn't there before. In dating, you stop confirming plans immediately. Your messages become shorter, yet somehow more charged. She starts to wonder if she's the only one in your orbit, or just the one you've chosen to let close for now. In a relationship, you stop filling every quiet moment with conversation. You let your attention drift elsewhere, to a book, a thought, the horizon beyond the window. Not because you're bored, because you're reminding her your mind is not a space she owns. Machiavelli would have said, power grows when your meaning is half shown, half hidden. Here's how to use this. Pull back just enough to create contrast, not enough to create suspicion. Shorten your sentences, slow your responses. Let her feel through the smallest cues that she no longer knows the man she had last week. Here's the second move, and it's the one that pulls her out of comfort and into craving. Every woman walks with a portrait of herself painted in her own mind. She knows how she appears. She knows the effect she has. She knows the moves that keep men orbiting her. And as long as that portrait remains intact, she believes she's in control. But the Machiavellian break doesn't tear that image down with brute force. It slips a fracture through the center, so every time she looks at it, something feels off. You don't call her out directly. You make her feel seen in ways that ripple through her. Picture this in dating. You're sitting across from her, a dim bar light painting half her face in gold, the other half in shadow. She tells a story, polished, rehearsed with all the right gestures. Most men would laugh, validate, lean in too eagerly. You lean back, eyes steady, half a smile. You tell it well, you say. But I think the parts you don't say are more interesting. She laughs, but her voice dips. She looks away just briefly, not to avoid you, but because she suddenly feels exposed in a way she can't explain. The air changes. The space between you tightens. Her posture shifts. She adjusts her hair without thinking. Now picture this in a relationship. She's curled up next to you on the couch, scrolling her phone, showing you memes, making light conversation. You stay quiet, eyes on her. And when she notices your gaze, you don't smile. You simply say, I wonder what you'd be like if you stopped pretending you're the one in control here. Silence. Her breath shifts. She leans back into you, not lazily, but like she's testing how much she can melt before you react. You've done nothing explicit. You've said nothing crude, but you've changed her role from performer to participant, from observer to subject. Machiavelli would have said to hold influence, turn the mirror toward them until they can't look away. Here's your next solution. Sit into the edges of her self-image, not the center. Find the hairline cracks, the moments where her confidence feels just a bit too quick, her charm a little too polished, her laughter a little too loud, and touch those lightly. Never accuse, never praise, just notice. And when you do, keep your voice low, your gaze steady, your body still. Because once she feels you've seen the version of her she hides, she'll start wondering how much more you already know. Here's the third move, and it's where the break stops being subtle and starts living in her body. A woman only feels truly drawn to a man when she senses something rare, that her usual moves, her rhythm, her timing don't affect him the way they affect others. In dating, you've been seeing her for a few weeks. She's used to holding the reins, controlling when she leans in, when she pulls back, when she stirs the air with just a glance. But then something shifts. She sends a playful message, and instead of reacting instantly, you reply hours later, calm, warm, without the urgency she expected. When you meet again, you don't rush to close the distance. You let her be the one to drift closer over the course of the night. She finds herself laughing more, touching your arm without realizing it, holding your gaze longer, as if trying to test whether you'll finally give her the response she's used to commanding. You don't, and she feels that tension coil inside her. In a relationship, she's testing you without even realizing it. Maybe she's a bit shorter in her replies. Maybe she's more distant at home, but instead of chasing the warmth, you keep your rhythm steady. You still move through the space like a man in his own kingdom. You still sit across from her, reading your book, sipping your drink, looking up only when you choose. At first, she acts unaffected, but over time, she starts creating little openings, brushing past you in the kitchen, sitting closer on the couch, lingering longer in the doorway when you pass by. Not because you demanded it, but because the quiet proof that she cannot pull you out of your center has begun to stir something low and restless inside her. This is the essence of confronting her emotional powerlessness. You don't resist her tests with force. You render them irrelevant. You let her realize, without a single word, that her influence over you has limits, and that those limits are not set by her. Machiavelli would have whispered, "A ruler's strength is measured not by what he gains when praised, but by what he holds when challenged." Here's how to use this in both dating and relationships. Replace instant reaction with deliberate presence. Move as if her shifts in mood or pace don't determine yours. Keep the same calm voice, the same steady gestures, the same grounded posture. Let her feel the truth. She's orbiting around you, not the other way around. Because when a woman sees that she can't move you at will, she starts moving closer, not from habit, but from desire. Here's the fourth move, and it begins when she starts leaning toward you, not because you pulled her in, but because you stopped holding her there. The power dynamic in most romantic exchanges is set early. She sets the pace, he follows. She gives and he responds. But when you perform the break correctly, you reverse this quietly. In dating, she's used to you showing interest. The texts, the gestures, the way your hand lingers when you walk beside her. Then you let it fade, not into coldness, but into a warm distance that feels intentional. You still look at her when she speaks, but sometimes your gaze drifts past her, like something else has caught your attention. You still laugh, but a little less easily, as if your thoughts are somewhere beyond her. When she texts, She starts waiting longer for your replies than she expected. When she sees you, she catches herself leaning in more, holding your arm a moment longer than necessary, reaching for a closeness that now feels earned instead of assumed, and that search begins to consume her. In a relationship, it's Friday night. She expects you to suggest plans. You don't. You're dressed well, focused, unhurried. She asks where you're going. You tell her lightly, but without inviting her. You don't shut her out. You simply move forward in your own direction, and that quiet independence draws her in. By the time you return, she's softer, closer, like she's trying to reclaim something she can't quite name. The inversion works because it turns her certainty into pursuit. She thought she understood your rhythm. Now she senses it's changed, and she has to step into it or risk being left behind. Machiavelli would have said, if you wish to be sought, you must be willing to withdraw what was once freely given. Here's how to apply it. Choose one or two forms of attention she's grown used to and reduce them strategically, not to punish, not to provoke, but to create a space she feels compelled to fill. Because once she starts reaching for what she thought was guaranteed, she's no longer managing the connection, she's chasing it. Here's the fifth move, and it's what ensures that the break cements your position rather than undermining it. Up until now, you've cracked her self-image, shown her she can't move you at will, and inverted the pursuit. But without this final step, she may still reset the rhythm, slip back into familiar dynamics and regain the comfort she had before. Controlling the frame during the break means living in a way that subtly reinforces the truth she is no longer the center of your world, she's a guest in it. In dating, you've created space. Now you fill it, but not with her. Your time becomes visibly occupied, and when she reaches out, she feels she's entering your momentum, not pulling you from a void. Maybe she catches glimpses of your nights out, not chaos, but the quiet composure in how you carry yourself among others. Maybe she hears of your new focus, not through direct explanation, but in the subtle details you choose to share. When she gets your time now, it feels intentional, not assumed. That shift alone makes every moment feel heavier. In a relationship, your routines stay intact, but the emotional center has moved. If she pulls away, your life doesn't stall waiting. You hold to your standards, your schedule, your rituals. You still dress with purpose. Invest in your body, your space, your presence. She notices it in the way you move across the room, your posture firm, your focus undisturbed. She feels it in how you touch her, slower, more grounded, like a man who knows the value of what he chooses to reach for. The frame is not just about control of the interaction, it's control over the narrative she's forming about you. And now, in that story, she's no longer deciding when you connect, you are. Machiavelli would have told you never return the terms of the old alliance, for in them lies the weakness they once knew. Here's how to execute. During the break, let your life become more defined without her input. Share fewer details, but let those you do share carry the scent of momentum. New places, new energies, new layers of calm. When she re-enters, it should be clear she's stepping into a world that didn't pause for her, and now it runs on your terms. That shift alters the story. Her role changes, her pace changes, her desire changes. Here's the sixth move, the one that ensures the break never resets to what it was before. Most men, once she returns, let relief override everything. They resume where they left off, like nothing changed. In doing so, they erase the shift that caused her return in the first place. A Machiavellian man never makes that mistake. He understands the return is not the end of the break. It's the moment the break becomes permanent. In dating, she starts leaning back in, texting quicker, suggesting plans, laughing more freely around you. But you don't match her pace immediately. At best, you meet her halfway, You keep the slow, deliberate rhythm you held during the space. When you're with her, the energy is warm, but there's a new edge. You're attentive, but not absorbed. She senses you're choosing to be there, and that choice carries weight. In a relationship, she softens after days or weeks of distance, sits closer, touches more often, asks more about your world, but you don't restore her full access. You keep moments to yourself. You still go to the gym alone. You make plans that don't revolve around her. And when you do engage, it's deep, but deliberate, a steady presence that reminds her of what's changed. Without a word, she understands the man she once knew is gone. Machiavelli would have said, "If you restore the former balance, you restore the former weakness." And now we reach the core of it all. This is the truth. Everything else has been leading toward. She returned, but not to the place she left. Everything between you now feels changed. The air is slower, heavier, more intentional. Every touch is a choice, not a reflex. Before, you mirrored her pace, her moods, her timing. Now you move like the tide, calm, certain, unmoved by anything outside yourself. You don't rush to fill silences. You let them stretch until she's the one to cross them. She notices in how you walk into a room without searching for her eyes. Her return isn't the win. The proof is in what stood firm while she walked away. Proof that the ground you held was stronger than the one she turned to. Proof that you built something she could feel before she could see it. Machiavelli would tell you when they move to follow you, their loyalty belongs not to who you were, but to who you became. This is no longer about getting her back. It's about preserving the shape you built in her absence. The version of you that doesn't bend to gain closeness, but makes closeness bend toward you. From now on, you are the man whose world moves to his own rhythm. The man who doesn't cling, because he never needs to let go. The man whose absence leaves a shadow, and whose presence leaves no question. And because you've become that man, she can never see you the same again. Not as someone she could sway, but as the place she will always return to. Not because she can, but because now she must. So, let's build minds that don't break.